Good evening. Once again, gentlemen, so we got our test bench thing for QBus cards working here. I did the acceptance tests on the Q-bone, and it's all working as it should, it appears. It's hooked to the Ethernet here, so I can log into it from this other machine, which we'll do in a minute here as soon as we turn it on. Now, here I have an M7944 4K word 8 kilobyte RAM card. That's a digital card, not one of the Heathkit cards, and it has a fault somewhere that we're going to have to suss out. Now this is this is a DRAM card. It doesn't provide its own refresh, and we don't have a CPU card installed right now to provide refresh to that RAM. So I've also got this bus terminator card installed in here, this M9400YA, which in addition to supplying bus termination also supplies some DRAM refresh and a boot ROM, which we're not using since we don't have a CPU installed. So hopefully that will keep, assuming that this card even works, which I don't know about, but the fault is always the same bit, so that leads me to think that the refresh is working and the RAM card is what's faulty. But we'll look at the RAM card here a little bit before we start testing, I guess. So there it is. That's MK4096 4K/1 DRAMs, 16 of them since it's a 16-bit machine, and it's bit 7 that's acting up. And since we've got 2 rows of 8 here, I assume that it's one of the chips on the end is going to be bit 7, but I can't find a schematic for this thing, so I'm not sure which one it is. But let me show you what I am doing here. I've tried plugging the card in down here, where it's easier to reach in there and feel the chips, and none of them are any hotter than any others. So unfortunately, that's not helping. Without a schematic, I don't know what to do other than is to just start desoldering ICs one at a time on the end here, and once we'll desolder an IC and put it back in and run a RAM test, and it'll of course throw an error on whichever bit we pulled out, but we can keep pulling them out until we find the one that doesn't change the numbers that are showing which bit the error is in, and then we'll know that we pulled out the one that was bad, and then we can put the good ones back in. I hate soldering on this old RAM because it's just so fragile, it seems like. I will tell you though, I think it is mighty peculiar to have DRAM soldered on like that, isn't it? I can guarantee you it's going to be socketed when we put it back. Oh, we can probably get that out of there. Now, I'll tell you one thing. There are a few things that stink more than ancient-assed solder, huh? Mr. Fluffles, are you taking a shit? You are a fragrant cat. Yes, sir. You are a fragrant cat. I wonder if the viewers can hear you scratching over there. Alright, well, we got that one out with all of the pins intact. I'm just going to slot the bastard back in there and do another RAM test, and I'll just keep doing that until we figure out which chip was bad. I'm going to take all of these off the ends until I find it, and if I don't find it, then I guess I'll continue pulling chips out, but surely they're in some kind of order there. Oh boy, what a pain in the butt. You breathe on these traces and they come up. At first I couldn't find any rhyme nor reason to the pattern of the bits as they're arranged on the card there, but I kept taking chips off and testing it and writing down where the bad bit was when I tested it without the chip in, and I think the pattern that I'm seeing here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which means this one, I think, is the one that's bad. Bit number 6. I was full of shit about it being bit number 7. I was counting wrong. But man, those traces, especially up here towards the edge, I mean, you look at them sideways, and those sons of bitches come right up off the board. I mean, you don't even have to start pulling on the chip, you just heat the son of a bitch, and there they come. But yeah, it turned out to be chip number 6 there, and I didn't have any more MK 4096 ends to replace it with, so I took a 41-256 and bent some of the pins up on top of it and soldered them all to VCC, the extra address lines. The 4096 has a active low chip enable line, but that the 41-256 doesn't have, but it's tied to ground on this board everywhere, so the chip enable is always on. So otherwise that wouldn't have worked. That's not a general purpose replacement for the 4096, but it happened to work in this case. I guess the MSV11B 4K word RAM card is working now. Yeah, there's all the fly wires I had to install in the back for the pads that lifted. That's pretty gnarly. That was annoying as shit. I let the memory test run all night and it seems fine. So the next things to test, I've got 4 of these Heathkit 4K by 16 modules. I'll just keep the deck card in there as segment 0 and start with this one that's strapped to segment 1. So yeah, this is very interesting. For some reason, with this Heathkit RAM card installed, it sends the beagle bone into a reboot loop. I don't know if there'd be a fault on the card, or if the power supply is not beefy enough. I'm going to install one of these other cards just to see, and if it still won't come up, then I'll restrap the one that's strapped for 4 for segment 0 and then try running it by itself in the system. With the card installed by itself, the beagle bone doesn't go into its reset loop, but whenever I try to do anything with the memory range that card is strapped for, the QBus application locks up. Alright, so I'm a dumbass. I forgot that the QBus doesn't terminate the bus itself. So this MSC card appears to be a 64 kilobyte card. It's filling the entire memory space except for the upper 4K I/O segment. So that's pretty cool, and the memory test appears to be passing on it as well. I retested one of the Heathkit cards before I put that in there, and it's got a bad bit on it. At least I've got schematics for those. Let's figure out which chip it is, and I'll try swapping one out of another card. Alright, well, all of the memory cards appear to work, although I haven't that pair of 2 megabyte cards hasn't gotten here yet. But everything that I already had, I've gotten fixed or appears to be working. There's the MSV11B, the 4K Word digital card that we had all that trouble with its little hack and fly wires on the back. But it tests fine. I let the memory test run overnight and it didn't turn up any errors with it. So that's good. This is that MSC 4601 card that I basically have no documentation for. I've got one page that doesn't actually say what the jumper settings are. All it says is that this one sets the base address and this one sets the size of the memory. But there's no other information, not even like what to set them to for various values. So I didn't experiment with changing those, but this is a 32K Word, a 64 kilobyte card, and it appears to work just fine. I didn't test it as long as the digital card because, you know, I was a little leery of all those fly wires and shit, right? But it seems fine. So this will be nice to pair with the LSI 2 CPU and a little something. And then we get to the Heathkit cards. I've got one in the backplane testing right now. This power supply, this old ATX power supply here that I've been using, it's entirely insufficient for running all of these cards. The voltage right now with the QBone and the bus terminator and one RAM card in there now is sitting on 4.5 volts. If I unplug the RAM card, it'll go up to 5. But if I plug in another card, it drops down to 4.2 and things get unstable. And also the QBone won't boot. Now, sometimes it'll boot and then keep rebooting, and sometimes it won't even come on at all. So I farted around trying to get more juice out of this power supply, doubling up some wires and stuff, but it didn't help. So whatever, I guess I'll have to fix that later, but I can test cards one at a time in the meantime. I guess I was going to put all the Heathkit cards in all at once and, you know, let the test run for a long time. But the Heathkit cards use these 1K by 4-bit static RAMs, and there were 4 of those bad between all 4 of the cards. I consolidated them all, so I've got the upper 1K of the Bank 3 card is empty. So I could have, you know, specified multiple of memory locations to test that wasn't on an even segment boundary, you know, and still tested all the stuff that I've got here if all of the cards would work with the fucking power supply at the same time. But oh well. So I don't think I've even got anything I can hack to replace these 4. So I'll have to buy ICs for that somewhere, I guess. Hopefully there's like a compatible later production chip, because I'm pretty sure that if I go trying to buy like these old ceramic case RAMs, they're probably really expensive because people probably collect them or something. Surely there is some later production chip that's got the same pin out or something similar enough that I can do some more buggery like we did on that other one too. I think the next order of business is to actually clean up these cards. A lot of these Heathkit cards still have old flux on the back of them. It's from like years and years ago. It's created quite the mess there. I need to clean that up, and I guess we'll start testing CPU cards after that. All right, cool. See you later. Mr. Beefy, are you helping? Are you helping? Are you a good boy? You are a good boy. You're a very helpful boy. Can you clean that flux off of those boards for me? Go on, bud. You can lick on those boards. Yeah? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, I guess I taste better. Suit yourself.